The new NFL season getting underway overnight, and due to coronavirus, it's going to be a season like no other, really, like all sports. Super Bowl champions, the Chiefs, planning to have almost a quarter of their stadium full, by all accounts, with fans for their match against the Houston Texans, first game of the season, kicking off about 1:30 our time. No pre-season games taking place because of the virus. The games usually played in London, of course, in the autumn. They've all been cancelled. Let's go and talk to Liz Bhandari, NFL writer, podcast host, who's managing editor of NFLGirlUK.com. She's also the host of the Cleats Off podcast. Liz, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. So you've had a love affair with the NFL for a while now, haven't you?
I have, yes, since 2012. So, not as long as, your more diehard fans, but been passionate since day one and absolutely love it. Can't wait for the season to kick off today.
Now, the big issues, big talking points during the summer, Brady going to the Bucs with Gronkowski, of course, his wingman, and a lot of people now feeling, with Bruce Arians, that the Bucs will be in the shake-up at the end of the season.
I really think so. Bruce Arians has been working on his team since last season, and to bring in these new additions, I feel like this is their big turnaround. I'm genuinely excited to see kind of how their season goes, and I'm mostly intrigued to see the whole Tom Brady, Bill Belichick thing. There's a whole thing about them needing each other. This first time they're not together, so I'm really intrigued to see how that's going to pan out for both sides as well.
It's going to be a very different season, though, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah. So with all the the coronavirus stuff that's going on, it's just strange. Obviously, not every single team's got fans in their stadium. I think there's only 6 that are willing to have some fans. So I think that on its own is going to be really, really weird. We've obviously seen quite a few players opt out of the season as well. Patriots have had 8 players basically opt out. Cleveland Browns have had 5. There's only 3 teams that have had no players, which are Falcons, Chargers, and Steelers. So it's interesting to see the impact that this obviously had. I mean, it's not surprising it's having an impact, but part of me thought, if anything, there would be either no season at all, or it'd at least get pushed back till November. So the fact that we're kicking off today is like a surprise. But yeah, here we are.
The fans, like every sport, they're part of the match day experience with American football and the NFL. I mean, it's an all-day affair, but the players will just have to deal with it like football players here or players of any sport. I mean, we're trying to get fans back here, but it doesn't look as though it's going to happen anytime soon with the new restrictions coming into place, but we'll see. But, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, is the superstar of the NFL, and the Chiefs are going to be in the mix again. A lot of people saying Baltimore in the AFC with Lamar Jackson. So how do you see the season playing out?
It's hard to tell in some senses because obviously we had no off-season and media haven't really been allowed into much training. So
no.
For these teams that have had these, big developments and changes in their team, it's kind of hard to see how they're going to pan out. So, prime example being Cam Newton for Patriots. He's kind of been a player that struggled a little bit with health, but, Bill Belichick's a mastermind, so I suspect they're going to be fine. But I don't know, I'm thinking when it comes down to the Super Bowl itself, many are saying it's going to be Ravens and Saints, with Ravens getting a win, which I think would be amazing, especially for Lamar Jackson. I think he's an incredible player. But for me, for the fairy tale, for the fun, can you imagine if it was Tampa Bay Bucks? Imagine if they made it and it was Tom Brady lifting a Lombardi.
Well, it'd be interesting. Cam Newton, obviously, who's taken over from Brady at the Patriots.
Yeah.
So that is going to be an interesting hook-up with Belichick again.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's quite exciting. I mean, Cam Newton's a talented player. I think when he was leaving the Panthers, I don't think I could picture any team that he was going to. But when it was announced it was Patriots, I was like, yeah, do you know what? That's the perfect fit. I think he needs that kind of that leader in Bill Belichick. So I think they're going to be, an exciting team to watch.
Well, he's got 8 years at the Carolina Panthers, and now the pressure will be on him as well. He's one of the big movers during the off-season. So we mentioned Brady going to the Bucs, of course. Anything else exciting you?
Yeah, so, I think we saw generally across the season quite a few big moves happen, but I think the best trade of all of them was Arizona. So they've shipped off David Johnson and draft picks to the Texans, and they've picked up DeAndre Hopkins, who, by the way, just negotiated himself one heck of a contract extension. So I think they did really, really well. I think Bengals, Broncos, Colts, Saints, and Titans, they all made some really, really good moves as well. But I think you've got to give it to Tampa Bay. I mean, they're clearly going for it this season, and good for them. They've transitioned from James Winston to Tom Brady. Tom's convinced Gronkowski to come out of retirement to come play, and I just think as a team they've done well. They've managed to retain their top pass rushers from last season, so they've brought back Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, and I can't pronounce this one real well, but Nadamong Su, and they had a really, really good draft as well. So they've brought offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs, they've brought safety Anton Winfield Jr., and they've brought running back Keshawn Vaughn as well. So, and let's not forget they've had the addition of LaShawn McCoy. So I think it's clear that of all the teams, Tampa Bay is the one that's going to be the most improved in 2020.
Yeah, you mentioned DeAndre Hopkins as one player to look out
for,
who's been with Houston for a while, but has now joined the Arizona Cardinals, as you say. So he's the wide receiver. So who is going to win? Oh, because you've got 14 teams in the playoffs, not 12 for this season. That's another change as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So that's a difference as well. But I don't know, it's a really tough one because when I think about the NFC, I can kind of picture Cowboys, Vikings. Tough between on NFC South with it being like Saints or Bucks, but I'm going to go Bucks for why not. And then, I think for NFC West, I'd love to see Seahawks win. At AFC, I'm thinking Patriots, Ravens, Colts, Chiefs. And then, I just think of those, they're the ones we're going to see. I think maybe it comes down to playoffs. I think I'd like to see the NFC Championship being between 49ers and Bucks, even though I'd love Seahawks to be there. Like, that's a team I'd really love to be. But no, maybe AFC champions being Chiefs, Ravens, and then, Bucks, Ravens is a Super Bowl I can see.
Well, either way, it's a very different season. There's a lot of big names that have moved with maybe points to prove. It will be fascinating, and it starts overnight. You'll be there. I think 1 o'clock in the morning, just after.
It certainly is.
The Chiefs against the Texans. Set the alarm clock. Liz Bhandari with us, who's managing editor of NFLGirlUK.com, podcast host as well. Liz, great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Go Bucks.